There's the chat room coming up. Yes, it is. Up in just 1 minute. Hit that like, share the show, let everybody know we're live and for real. Woo-hoo is right. Look at that. Thanks, Stacy. All right, give me 1 minute. We're about to get started. 1 minute. Boom.
What?
Q-snake.
This is going to reveal all the evil in our country?
All right, here we go. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna bring myself in before the guest because I think that's the right thing to do. Welcome to the show, everybody. Sorry, my voice is fried. It's just life in the crazy world we live in. I had a last minute booking for those of you that know that saw. I had these misfire shows last week on the Mork cruise, the Monsters of Rock cruise. I guess I shouldn't say cruise twice. That's like when Chips became Chips Patrol and made us all very angry. And the only person I can think of that would understand my anger at that particular moment would be the great Bob Seska joining us today. How are you, sir? I know we've got a lot of Yeah. I know we've got a lot of politics to cover, including the madness of King George, which clearly is the area that we are living in. And I feel like anytime Europeans start going, we can hate America now, I'm like, okay, first of all, you guys went through this shit in the 30s. Leave us alone. And that was the latest edition. So simmer. Nobody gets to, in the growth of every country, we're getting this, we're pulling this Band-Aid off early, it seems, because other countries did it either 500 years ago, 1,000 years into their existence, or in the last.
Yeah.
And
so, I think it's more driven by fear than anger, to be honest with you. I don't know if many of these heads of state are necessarily angry at the United States. I think they're just terrified of what's going to happen next
Yeah.
because Donald Trump is destabilizing the world order.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what he was tasked to do. Everybody
Yeah.
who calls him a Russian spy is missing the point. He does not have the mental capacity to be a spy. He is a Russian
Mm,
asshat by
yeah.
every measure. Like there's no value to this human being. I mean, you
Mm,
wouldn't trust him with your car, much less trust him with your, sneaking national secrets out in a USB drive up his ass, and then, surviving the trek across the tundra to squat in a bucket and give it to you and
yeah.
reveal the great nuclear secrets of the big devil.
Mhm.
That's my spy novel in a nutshell.
And by the way,
Um,
I wouldn't trust him with my car because he doesn't remember the phrase dashboard or the word dashboard. Thinks it's a
right.
panel where everything's computer.
Yes, it's all computers. Like he did.
It's
That's
everything's
also
computer.
okay. Okay. Let's just. There's so much that happened in my
Mm,
absence that is so mind-numbingly stupid. And the biggest one being, and you and I talked about this before, is that I feel like we are in an era of the madness of King George
yeah.
meets Fafo. And the only thing that comes to mind when I'm watching all this shit go down, and I'm curious if you feel the same way, is I told you so. Like we
Yeah.
all were like, this is exactly what he's going to do. He means it. This is Project 2025. He's
Yeah.
signing pages of it as EOs every fucking day,
Uh-huh.
and it doesn't work. It won't work.
Yeah.
It can't work. And so, how do you maneuver around only just screaming "I told you so" into a microphone
I
right
know.
now?
That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to find a balance between saying you were warned, the warnings were issued about all of this, versus, well, you know what? I don't necessarily want to piss off certain groups of people who we could probably use when it comes to the next special election or 2026 or 2028. So I'm trying to find that middle road somewhere between the Schadenfreude and turning people off. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's a challenging thing to do. It's a challenging place to be, but here we are. And you know what? We can't. A lot of people made stupid fucking decisions last year to vote for this guy, and it affects all of us. It is affecting every single last one of
Right.
us, no matter who we are or what we're doing, whether we're MAGA, whether we're pro democracy, or what have you. And so I have quite a bit of bitterness about that because, as you're exactly right, those
Yeah.
warnings were issued. We talked about Project 2025 for at least a couple of years. There was a
Yeah.
website, Hal. There was a Project 2025 website run by the Heritage Foundation where all of this shit was easily searchable, especially the main prong of Project 2025 was to fire at least, and the number was always 50,000 plus. So it's at least
Yeah.
50,000 federal workers and replace them with Donald Trump loyalists. That was the Project 2025 mission. Heritage Foundation was interviewing replacements for all the federal workers that they may be firing right now. So there's an additional layer to this where, and correct me if I'm wrong, where they're kind of framing this as being a cost-cutting measure to fire all these federal workers when I thought, based on Project 2025, they were going to be replaced with people who have signed loyalty oaths to Donald Trump.
Right.
Um, I thought that was the case.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so I've always spoken about this as we have our two big competing asshole political philosophies. Which on the
Mm,
left wing side of things, it's the TYT. If we don't get everything, nobody gets anything. Bullshit, right?
yeah,
And on
right,
the
right.
right, on the right, the motto has always been: government can't do anything right. Elect me, and I'll prove it.
Mhm.
And government is inefficient. It spends too much money. It wastes time and energy. It's dangerous. It doesn't know what it's doing. It makes haphazard decisions and doesn't listen to the people. They're in a
Yeah.
bubble in Washington, and that literally defines the entirety of the Trump methodology right now. They're
Mhm.
almost proud to be completely numb to reality, and I
Yeah.
think this, that whole Reagan quote, I think it's thrown around so fucking much. That whole like, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you, being the scariest 11 words in history or whatever, has done
Yeah.
so much fucking damage over the years because it became cute to believe it everywhere. It did not matter like who you were, right to left, across the entire spectrum. It became like an easy punching bag.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part is on the Democratic side, it became a cute phrase that we sort of mention or whatever, and it use it when
Mhm.
it's like when you're a restaurant that gets bad service and you're just kind of like, man, this chain, right?
Yeah.
You make fun of the
Hmm.
chain because you're in a bad outlet or whatever. But on the Republican side, it's a fucking religious code they live by.
Mhm.
And uh, and it's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They have to make that true.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they have to admit that there are things companies can't do or won't do or can't afford to do or it isn't profitable except in the lives of human beings. Government is a
Mhm.
service, not a business,
Yeah.
and they're not in that business. And I just see them like acting out. I'll show you real quick one thing. I want to show you this, and this kind
Okay.
of sums it all the fuck up. More eggs than fentanyl being seized in border crackdown.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it, the Trump administration in a nutshell. That's it.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
you know that. So, anyways, I wanted to like get your take on this kind of like them being emblematic of the absolute inadequacy of government and the failure of government and the over budget, under deliver aspect of government. It seems to
Mhm.
be a self fulfilling prophecy right now.
It absolutely is. I mean, that's the kind of the very nature, the essence of Republican conservatism as it used to be prior to Donald Trump, which is that, yeah, well, we hate government so much. When we get in control, we're going to prove how terrible government is. It's kind of, you know what, from a framing messaging point of view, it's kind of what the conservative movement did to the word liberal. They did this sort of
Yes.
same kind of thing to the idea of government. They turned it into this faceless behemoth, this money suck machine that is out of the control of the average American. And it's this thing that does nothing but take our taxpayer dollars and misspend them on frivolous things like ashtrays and all this
Right.
Pentagon procurement crap that they always go through the list of things and kind of say, well, look, I mean, do we really need to spend $10 million on studying turtle eggs and it's just like it's the who was the former governor of Louisiana when he was doing his State of the Union response, and he was the name is slipping my mind. I can't believe I'm forgetting his
Foghorn
name, but
Leghorn.
yeah, right. But this was during, I think, the
Yeah.
Bush administration. No, it was during the
Oh,
Obama.
okay.
I think it was Obama's first State of the Union, and he got up there and he was talking about, I can't look. Do we really need to spend money on volcano monitoring and magnetic levitation? And he kind of framed it to seem as though magnetic maglev trains were somehow
Right.
this fantastical Star Wars thing that is just such a ridiculous waste of money to be investing in. And so that's actually seeped its way into the minds of so many Americans, this demonization of the idea of government, to the point where people are like, yeah, okay, it's bloated, the giant bureaucracy, red tape, all this wasted money. So therefore, yeah,
Right.
we need to downsize it. But you know what? Very soon, if not already, people are beginning to recognize, oh shit, we kind of need the government.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, and this is the West Wing idealism that comes out in me, the government is all of us. The government is composed of the people. The people go in and work for the government. Therefore, the government is accountable to the people. And it's not this faceless machine. It's, countless thousands of jobs, people doing the necessary work, the functioning to represent the interests of a plural society. 340 million Americans requires a vast bureaucracy in order to make sure that all those people are properly served by their government. And you can't, when you start to whittle it down and say, you know what, we're only going to have the government to serve straight white men and screw the black people and black women and women, white women too, and
Right.
throw in disabled people in there as well, then the wheels come off the whole thing. And in essence, it becomes the thing that they have most demonized over the years. It becomes this faceless machine that only serves the interest of one particular group of people and not the entire population of the United States. And I bet you, I would sit here and bet $1,000 that if someone were to ask Donald Trump how many people are in the United States, he couldn't answer that question. He would probably avoid it and say it's a stupid question or it's a very vicious
Right.
question. I can't believe you.
You're
I bet he
Bob
couldn't name the
Cesca's
number
a
of letters
nasty
in the
person.
alphabet.
Right.
Yeah,
You're a very
right.
nasty
But I mean,
person.
that's, yeah. So, this is nothing but politics. This is nothing but, when you boil it down, Hal, this is Donald Trump governing based on Fox News AM talk radio fiction. Infotainment, this sort of parallel universe that's been created about the United States on the Red Hat Entertainment Complex, the conservative entertainment complex. And that's been underway for years, and Donald Trump believes every bit of it. And so one of the reasons why we're all scratching our heads going, why is he talking about Panama and Greenland and Canada and all this ridiculousness, all the justifications for DOGE and everything like that, and just all the despotism that he's involved in right now. And it's because it's baffling to us, because he's reacting to fiction. He's reacting to absolute fantasy that's been perpetrated on, Fox News for so many years, AM talk radio for decades now. So that's why we are where we are.
So I want to remind everybody, by the way, Bob Cesca, it's bobcescashow.com is the website. Do you have a Substack as well now? Yeah. Are you part of that whole thing? Is it just bobcesca.substack.com?
Yeah. I've started a Substack. It's in its early form right now, but bobcescashow.substack.com. You can subscribe to a bonus show on there too. And plus I post all the regular shows on there as well. So
excellent. And everybody here, hit up the super chats and all that kind of stuff. Facebook is down for some reason for me right now. I'll remedy it by the afternoon show. And my voice is just going to sound kind of dry and Lauren Bacall-ish for the next 24 hours. So sorry about that. I had a chance to sing on stage. Nerd Halen had a show and Nuno Battencourt came on stage with us and did Hot for Teacher. The video is apparently making its rounds, and what an amazing, shocking, wonderful surprise that was. And I got to sing on stage with Kip Winger and the Winger guys and Jeff Scott Soto. Yeah, it's an opportunity you don't pass up. I was on, I had a chance to do celebrity duets back in the day, and and I was like, I don't know, because it was more like leaning towards R&B and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I like singing, but whatever. And then they said, Smokey Robinson would be your first partner on the show. And I was like, my mom will strangle me to death if I don't sing with Smokey Robinson. Like if I pass up an opportunity, she would be right to do so. It'd be the one instance where, infanticide of a grown man would be worthwhile. So I did that. And the same thing is true with a Mork, and what an amazing thing. So obviously I threw everything against the wall. I got the ship crud right at the tail end of it, but I kept singing anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, you have to get the ship crud. Every time you get on a cruise ship, there's always crud to get as your parting gift. Yeah.
So luckily I have a cough button. So hopefully I'll hit it every time. Apologize if I don't. Super chat's always welcome. Don't forget to share the show. Annoy the maggots around you by making me show up in their feed. Now, one of the things, and I don't know if you've seen any of my coverage of this at all. I understand that it's one of the more weird parts of this whole thing, but this is Technocracy Inc. and the Technate of America. Technocracy Inc. was an organization back in the 30s and 40s that believed that the governments of old, including democracy, were a waste. You can't manage humans through letting them have a choice, and you can't do it through straight authoritarianism. So what you do is turn it over to the scientists. Let the engineers decide the limited resources and how to allocate that based on, output and input. And they literally would have money based on energy certificates, meaning you got a certain amount of light during the day. Like you would get electricity sent to your house based on how many of those because you'd worked in the factory or on a farm field or something like that. So your work would be turned into energy, and that's how you would be paid. And everybody could use any excess energy that they had done, which is, by the way, how actual money works anyways, but whatever, they're assholes. That said, Elon Musk's grandfather was a sycophant of the leader of this guy and worked with him specifically on their newsletter in Canada. His maternal grandfather, who he was like his hero, said he was the most, risk positive guy ever, blah, blah, blah. Hello, person at the front door. I'm surrounded by robots at this point. It's just a known thing. Anyways, that said, this is the map, the Technocracy Inc. and the tech native America wanted to put forward. And I don't know if you can see that, but it includes Canada and Greenland. It
Yeah.
also includes most of Mexico and the top of South America.
Oh,
We'll
God.
get to that
Yeah.
later. But that would be so. What have we heard from Donald Trump since he started hanging around with Elon Musk? Out of fucking nowhere. Greenland, Canada, we need to invade Mexico. It's basically governed by the cartels. We might have to bomb it anyways. Well, what happens after you bomb an area? You're either materially responsible for it or you aren't, you know? And ultimately, this is what they're shooting for. This is that
Yeah.
doesn't come out of Trump's head.
That's
This is
it.
being whispered into his fucking empty dome by Elon Musk. And the idea is that they want the energy you can pull from Greenland. If you're going to put a giant cloud server anywhere, Greenland is a great place for it. It's fucking cold. There's plenty of water. You could use, that to cool it as well. But you could also, use hydropower and all kinds of stuff in Greenland for that specific purpose. And then you could set a nuclear power plant up there away from a lot of humans, and you would have effectively Greenland would be the home of AI. That's what they're thinking. I guarantee it. I don't know why nobody is talking about this, but that's why Greenland. Why the fuck Greenland? That's exactly why. All of these, Elon Musk built his fucking Memphis little, like his XAI Memphis, the giant supercomputer, whatever. It's not a supercomputer. It's a bunch of fucking relays of servers running on NVIDIA video cards. It's a crypto farm. It's not even running Grok there. They don't even need, Grok isn't advanced enough to require half of that fucking space. It's a crypto mine. That's why they're trying to talk Trump into crypto mining. And this. And I got to say, one of the most beautiful things, one of the most gorgeous things was him having this crypto roundtable and having a crypto czar and then promising this big win for crypto. And then he signs this executive order that America is going to have a Fort Knox for crypto, a virtual Fort Knox for crypto, which is fucking dumb to start with. But they're not going to buy any. It's only going to come because they can't buy any, because the U.S. can't. It doesn't recognize it as a real currency because it ain't. It can't buy any, so it can only seize it from people. So the only way Trump can add to his fucking crypto vault is so gorgeous, is to seize it from people like Sam Bankman-Fried and all those assholes, which is where the initial nut came from. And that means all those guys at the table who are like, he's going to let us crime our asses off, are suddenly like, oh shit, the only way he can add to it is out of my fucking pocket or the pocket of, my biggest customers, because little drips and drabs aren't going to fucking do it. It's so good. It's so him, as Steve Martin would say in Roxanne.
Plus, it has the benefit of being completely incomprehensible to the average American who, are watching these things go by and they see cryptocurrency and their eyes glaze over. Well, I don't even know what that is. What a Federal Reserve?
It's not a currency.
What is that supposed to be?
It's not a currency. Right. It isn't a current. A currency means there's a current to it. It flows places. I can take it from you and put it in a little raft like Moses and float it down the river, and someone will take it out and turn it into something else. Money, for all the shit fiat currency gets from all the right wingers who like gold is real money. Okay, pretty rocks, great. That's a great thing to base your entire economy on. Is this rock is prettier than most? It's just the dumbest fucking thing. But fiat currency it's just really inconvenient to carry a sandwich in your pocket all fucking day. It's better to carry a piece of paper you can trade for a sandwich later. And that's life. That's how we live now. And there's no going back. And crypto, you can't do that yet. And you're not going to be able to do it anytime soon. And there's still so many of them jockeying for position. Bitcoin's the front runner, but as it craters, everything craters with it. That's all it acts as, is a drag.
Yeah.
So and I know personally, you're huge into Trump coin. You bought in early. I think that was very smart.
Yes, I'm all
you were
about
one
the
of
Trump
the snipers.
Coin. Right.
Yeah. The snipers.
Yeah.
That is Trump coin the perfect analogy for the rug pull that is the entire Trump presidency for all MAGA?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, God, yes. Yes. I mean, it's one of the central scandals of Donald Trump's second term so far. That meme coin that he released is the perfect way to bribe Donald Trump. I mean, that one
Right.
Chinese crypto bro invested $50 million in Donald Trump's meme coin, and then suddenly the SEC drops its investigation of that crypto bro. I mean, in any other normal time, this would be the centerpiece scandal of an
Totally.
American presidency that would tear it down limb by limb, and it would be unrecoverable for the president to try to wiggle out of it. So, but now, because of the way this administration is operating, especially this time around, that kind of shit gets flushed down the toilet once again, partly because, well, there's lots of fear in the media. But the other thing is a lot of people just don't understand how cryptocurrency works and can't see
Well,
the connection between, this guy and Donald Trump and the SEC and how those things all seem to fit together.
right. So I'm of the theory, and I'm a big fan of what I've called Macron's handshake. That Democrats and others have got to make Trump like, hey, buddy, you're doing a great fuck. Isn't he doing a great job? He's doing a great job,
Yeah.
and he promised us this, which is which is what they've all started to do. Like, if you notice, this world leaders have done this whole like, yeah, sure, buddy, whatever. Yeah, awesome, and thanks for that. And he didn't
Yeah.
even say that in the meeting. Like now he can't walk it back because he's got to either have the nuts to call them out for lying, or remember if he actually did promise it, because he fucking promises everybody everything. Which brings me to, again, these the people who voted for him. So this is the Samaritan's Purse website about their response to the West Virginia and Kentucky flooding that happened, where Trump went nowhere fucking near the place once that flooding happened. Like, he's just done with disasters. Like, he's not doing it. And he went golfing. And this money, that like, he signed off on the disaster relief, but then started choking off FEMA's response to it because he wants FEMA to die. So it can't be effective. He can't allow it to be effective because, God forbid, these people realize, oh shit, well, it's too late. I watched like, this guy went down there and interviewed everybody, like this deep kind of dive. He went down there, spent about a week interviewing people, and they're all Trump voters. And they're like, do you think he's going to help the state? Do you think he's going to help you out? And they're all like, well, I hope so, but we ain't seen nothing yet. And I got to tell you, like, West Virginia, when it's bad, it's bad. And when it's good, it's some of the most, like, well-read rednecks you'll ever meet. There's a weird mix of people in West Virginia. There's a early American history aspect of it, where there's a pride of being like the founding fathers. So there's multilingual people. There are people who read very well. They all got Southern accents, so nobody would believe it. But you could tell by their grammatical structure and their syntax that they're not stupid. But you can tell they're having this moment of, like, they can't say it because it's a social pressure thing.
Yeah.
But you could see that they're all like, he better fucking turn this around soon, or they'll be hell to pay. That's, using his language.
Oh, yeah.
And so far, nothing. Like, standard money, but no extra help, and certainly no attention to it, which is, I think, when in the era of Trump, attention is the true currency. Right?
Yeah. Oh, God, yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in fact, Chris Hayes just wrote a great book about that he's been touring about, and it's just an incredible thing. The deep dive into how social media functions and how they've commoditized. I don't know if that's a word, but they've turned attention into a commodity. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I can see with people in West Virginia, Kentucky right now, some other areas where there've been natural disasters that, the first thing I see when I see one of those headlines is, I wonder where FEMA is and does anyone care? And it's,
Right.
You imagine people in West Virginia, for example, like the old cartoons where you would see like a devil and an angel on each shoulder, except it's a pile of rubble on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. And the devil looks like Donald Trump. And they're like, well, I love Donald Trump, but oh my God, this pile of rubble that used to be my house. Where do I go? What do I do? That's one of the reasons I think that the Democratic Party has just a huge opportunity to step in and
Yeah.
make a case for these people. And I love the fact that Tim Walz is going around to some
Yes.
Republican districts in Ohio, Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Great idea, because what he's seeing there is an opportunity to win over some people. Just like,
Agreed.
I've seen, love him or hate him, I've seen Bernie Sanders go into some of these red areas and convince MAGA, like diehard MAGA voters, about Medicare for all. It's kind of an amazing
Right.
thing to observe if you ever seen that on tape or a
Right.
video of that. Him convincing a MAGA voter to support essentially socialized medicine. It's incredible. And so this is another area where I think Democrats can go in and say, see, you kind of need the government. You kind of need
Yeah.
FEMA to come in because the states, I mean, for God's sake, back when Dennis Miller was funny, I remember he used to say, states can't even pave roads. I don't know why we're expecting them to run a education and to be able
Right.
to handle disaster relief and things like that. I don't know if you can expect West Virginia to do the same kind of job that the CDC and the NIH might do for us. So there, again, another opportunity for Democrats to make that case and say, hey, look, I know it's chaotic right now, but just take another look at us and we may be the solution for you. And I think that's really wise politics to exploit that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that Democrats need to be very state focused right now. That they're not going to be able to, like, the CR was a smart move, letting it go through. I truly believe, because there is no fight to be had there. It will pass. As a matter of fact, it would pass more brutally the more they fought against it, and the fact that it's a continuation of basically the Biden spending with the a slight bump in extra spending not added to it, like that chunk that the Republicans wanted to add that would finance Trump's border shit. He's now got to go back and fight for and budget and actually sell a budget, and it's not going to work. I don't know if you watched the I forget what his name is. I'm blitz on it because I don't care, but he's the second in charge under Mike Johnson, and he's the one tasked, unfortunately, with explaining to Republicans why Trump's tax cut will destroy the frigging economy. It's a terrible idea. And he comes out every day going, congratulations, you killed USAID. That's a day of borrowing. You've saved a whole day of borrowing. In 365 days, the whole thing is gone. And the weird part is we hear about the biggest thing about USAID. First of all, not all of it, goes to foreign countries. A lot of it is a way that they boost farming in the country by leveling prices, by taking some of those farm goods, buying them, evening out the price, and sending them overseas. So that's, it's like the government cheese methodology of USAID. That was one of the things that it did. And so it was a way of, like, it was getting pork into the farm states without saying that, right? But while everybody was mad about pork in the budget, they could hide it in USAID. And the reason they didn't want people asking questions about what USAID does is because Republicans don't want them finding out that this is a way of funneling money to farmers in their states. So the big thing about USAID was NGOs, these horrible NGOs, like Glenn Beck went off on it this week, these non-governmental organizations. I think it's the biggest scam and blah, blah, blah. And money gets funneled through them to go to this thing. Well, the Samaritan's Purse is an NGO. All right. And it gets support from both state and federal funding on the back end. So Trump went down there and danced with them with the Samaritan's Purse thing. And they're probably, what they are is redneck FEMA right now. What he's trying to do is undermine FEMA, but there's no difference. Samaritan's Purse is still getting federal funds to do that work instead. It's just Christian outreach, and he's throwing money to the evangelicals. And that, so this whole idea, on the one hand, government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it. And on the other hand, NGOs were the Republican solution. Just don't have the government do it. Private contractors. Look at the military.
Yeah.
So that brings me to, and this will be our big sort of transition, is no new wars. That was the big thing. No new wars. And now,
right, Donald the Dove.
Right. Donald, no new wars. We're getting out of everywhere, and we're not starting any new shit. Meanwhile, it looks increasingly like we're going to bomb Mexico at some point from all the rhetoric. and Iran is on deck. Either we back Israel doing it or we do it ourselves. That Khomeini fired back at Trump's demand that they, his big fiery truthing or whatever. Is that his wag the dog or the real World War III? Bob Seska, go.
Yeah, I don't know that it's the real World War III, because Donald Trump levies a lot of threats. That's part of the thing. We don't know what to take seriously and what to kind of blow off as being nonsense or gibberish or just Donald blurting things in the middle of the night. So
Right.
it's really difficult to know what he intends with this. I mean, remember this period of time in 2017 during his first term, he was all about Little Rocket Man and Fire and Fury going after North Korea. And it was really just Donald trying to intimidate and trying to saber rattle, and without any real meat behind it, without any real teeth underlying it. And it's kind of the same, you know what, to be honest, it's the same with his tariff threats, which are, and I underscore the word threats, where, yeah, he's freaking out the markets and he's tempting higher inflation, certainly preemptive inflation, where a lot of corporations are already starting to raise their prices, getting ready for inevitable tariffs. But at the same time, it's inconsistent in terms of what he means and what he doesn't mean, what he's just using as some sort of weird, threatening cudgel to try to gain concessions on some level. I mean, the whole, God, the whole idea of the art of the deal is such ridiculous fiction. I can't even, I don't even know where to start with that.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, the Louisiana governor, I just thought of his name, Bobby Jindal. This is a callback to about half an hour ago.
Bobby Jindal, right.
Bobby Jindal. I completely forgot about Bobby Jindal. Volcano monitoring, maglev trains are just stuff of fantasy. I can't even believe we're spending money on this. But anyway, so this is Donald Trump just, I think, trying to pretend as though he is president of the United States. He's, going through the motions, going through the performance of it, because this is all a big TV show to him. And he understands that, well, last time around, in episode 1, I went after North Korea. Episode 2, maybe I'll start to screw around with, it's kind of like the Batman movies where they're, the first one, there's one villain. Second movie, there's 2 villains. Third movie, there's 3 villains. He's already now on the third movie where he's talking about Canada and Panama and now I guess Iran. I don't know. In his head, somehow this makes sense, but as I'm describing it, it is just so all over the goddamn place. It's hard to know where to begin.
I have said that Democrats and business people and certainly the news media, instead of hiring political pundits to talk about political theory and what conservatives versus liberals and blah blah blah, as if there's any kind of method to his madness, they need to hire reality TV game show producers, either segment producers or game producers from that, because those people will be able to look at what he's doing and go, oh, I see. In 3 weeks, he's going to fire that person. Oh, no. So this is a bluff, but what he's really showing is this. This is what we did classic, blah, blah, blah. Like he's got, like, Burnett is probably the person most on the hot phone with him talking about media strategy over anybody else. He gave him that job, like the no-show British envoy job, Mark Burnett, but he's like, that's the dude. That's the dude who tells him, like, this is how you stay relevant. This is why I think it is different. The Iranian stuff is different from Kim Jong-un.
Okay.
Kim Jong-un had a bit in his mouth. He had reins on him from the Chinese government. The Chinese government could, hold him back because they basically use him as a pit bull on the chain. And now they use him a little bit to, like, funnel military help from them to Russia, for example, while keeping their hands clean for the most part. And there's a big rumble about whether China will invade, the southern part of Russia and take some of its land back if, and they're basically waiting for Putin to fall. So they're encouraging him to not participate in this peace thing at all because they think it will hasten his demise. Meanwhile, the Iranian shit is linked to the only thing that's saving them from us bombing them, I think, is their friendship with Russia so far, really. But the rest of it is pure old-fashioned PNAC Republican shit list. If we could find a way to get to topple the Iranian government for real, not the way MI6 fucked up and did it years ago and hung it around our neck, but for real. This is, and you talk about all the things that Tulsi Gabbard allegedly was against, all the shit that, the no stupid foreign wars, no forever wars, blah, blah, fucking blah. This is the thing that he's, because of the Houthis, because of Hezbollah, because of Gaza, and because of his friendship with Netanyahu, there's an opportunity. They see an opportunity to get rid of Khomeini at some point, and have this, like, this could be his biggest freeing moment if Israel does this job for him. And in the same way that I think he would have stood down NATO in protecting Ukraine in the beginning of the war, that's why there never would have been a war. It would have taken 6 days, and Russia would have just taken Ukraine. That's what really would have happened. This war wouldn't have happened. Yeah. They'd have just lost Ukraine. That'd be fucking that. The same thing he thinks is true of the Iranian leadership. Iran's got a real military, but they also got like Saudi Arabian subversion squads in their western area, right on the sea, in the same way that Saudi Arabia has Iranian subversive squads on their western side, right up against the sea. And I guarantee if he surrounds himself with enough like Heritage Foundation fuckwads or any of these leftover PNAC assholes, or if he gets Bolton back on the phone, which he very well might, he could see Iran as both his wag the dog and his I freed the Iranian people, but guaranteeing something for himself as some sort of legacy. And it won't be the Abraham Accords. It will be, I'm a war president now. You've got to do whatever I want. And the war powers that come with doing something like this, because whether it's a false flag or a real thing, if he could just take advantage of it. He said this. This is the part that stuck out to me. Iran will be held responsible for every shot fired by the Houthis. That is not about the Houthis. That is about giving yourself permission, using the authorized use of military force or your belief about the U.S. military to declare shot fired by them is just shot fired by Iran. They fired at us. This came after this. They fired at a U.S. airplane. That's where this shit is coming from. And it's the same talk they're doing about Mexico right now. He goes, let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by the Houthi, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen. By the way, this is all drafted by fucking Dan Scavino's crowd or whatever.
Of course.
Who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. Any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis, and he puts them in quotes, I don't know why, will be met with great force, and there's no guarantee that the force will stop there. Iran has played the innocent victim of rogue terrorists from which they've lost control, but they haven't lost control. Yeah. This fits the same rhetoric as Mexico, and the cartels are really a government if you think about it.
Yeah. I think there are certainly people within the administration who want this to happen, who are interested in the overall geopolitical strategy of using the Houthis as a go-between to get to Iran. I doubt Donald can even spell the word Houthis. I don't think that he's that engaged with the actual policy. But and the way he sees it is, if I'm threatening Iran and I'm looking like, oh, look, I'm crazy, I could do anything at any moment, I'm gonna fire and fury, the likes of which we've never seen. And if he goes down, if he uses that tactic, that sort of framing, then he's able to scare other nations into complying with whatever he wants. Like, okay, well, this guy's really unpredictable. He's a short fuse. He's a itchy trigger finger. So we better comply with whatever ridiculousness he's proposing from day to day. So he gets a little something out of it. Obviously, the, whatever PNAC element is still in there, Project for a New American Century, I think it was. They're getting maybe a little bit of what they wanted, and certainly Bibi Netanyahu's getting a green light to do whatever he wants, which is an ongoing thing. I mean, as soon as Donald Trump got elected, it was basically like a free for all for Netanyahu. So this has a multi-factored motivation here. not only, as far as trying to scare the shit out of Iran, but also giving Donald the opportunity to, take his tiny nutsack out and put it on the table and say, "Oh, look at
Right.
me! Look at me! I'm gonna,
Right.
you're next."
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So that's, again, a lot of this is blather the first term, because
Mhm.
again, we always talked about how there were, I don't know, adults in the room and the Rex Tillersons of the world who weren't afraid to call him a fucking moron, which is clearly what, by the way, Marco Rubio is saying to his staff by himself. No question.
Mhm.
No
Yeah,
question.
Sean
And
Duffy
they're
as
all,
well.
oh, well, yeah, Jesus Christ. Duffy is like, oh, I get it. Because the methodology of Trump is this, delegate and blame. This
Yeah.
is the whole way. He did this, firewall yourself from your failures. Everything is an LLC. Nothing is part of the greater company, which is me, but unless it's a win. If it's a win and it makes money, I take credit for it. If it's a failure, that's an LLC that failed, barely has my name
Mhm.
on it. It's just got a couple of initials. You don't even, yeah, it says DJT, but that could be anything, right? And he does this whole like, guy came very highly recommended, right? That's his way of going, you guys recommended him. I didn't know this fucker. If he fucks
Mhm.
up, it's on him. I gave him a great idea. So
Yeah.
the issue I think that we're going to see going forward in this second term, though, is because he surrounded himself with sycophants, there are people around him like the Kash Patels of the world, and I'll get to the Epstein stuff in a moment, that can't say no to the guy.
Yeah.
They ran on being the guy, we won't say no to him like those awful people did before. And
Mhm.
in the case of the military, there's just legal lines he can't cross. He can't declare war on fucking Canada or Greenland without Congress, period. None of them are going to attack us. There's no false flag coming from fucking Ottawa. So that's off the table. So it's a bunch of blather. That's distraction.
Mhm.
That's totally
Yeah.
bullshit. But this, every shot the Houthis fire is a shot from Iran, and the cartels are really the government of Mexico, if you think about it, talk, is that it reminds me of the justifications for enhanced interrogation and shit that the Cheney, White House was giving us.
Yeah.
And that's the part I'm like, I'm on watch for as a human being and as a absorber of all this stuff. The only thing that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up is that talk, because
Mhm.
whether he understands what he's saying, the people around him abso-fucking-lutely do. Right?
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think that's talking about hair standing up on the back of your neck. That's the dominating reaction that I have to just about everything that's going on with Donald Trump. Because whether
Yeah.
it's, I mean, obviously there are certain things that are very clearly just him spouting off about whatever nonsense he's into. The Gulf of America thing, I barely even pay
Right.
attention to that.
Yeah.
But there are other things where, he's just, I've talked about this on my show so many times. I know my listeners are tired of hearing it from me, but he's got a Jenga puzzle in front of him and he's got a blindfold on. He's just like, that piece and then that piece, and poke that
Right.
one out and poke this one out. And suddenly the thing starts to wobble and starts to lean. And it's only a matter of time before the whole thing comes crashing down. And the thing that keeps me up at night is wondering, well, when it does crash down, how many heads is it going to land on? I mean, what's going to be the extent of the real
Right.
damage here? Whether it's knocking out entire blocks of the federal government that are necessary for, as we were talking about before, for representing and guiding and facilitating 340 million Americans. But it's also just the destabilization of the world order and turning all of our former allies against us. And where does that
Right.
land? And then suddenly we're casting our lot in with, these dictators who also happen to be in control over devastatingly awful economies. I mean, that's the one thing about autocracy
Right.
is you seldom see a thriving economy in an autocracy. It's just these two things do not go together. And so how does that turn out for us? Because we're now well into autocracy. I just hate to break it to anybody, but we're here. And
Right.
it's now just a matter of how badly it's going to affect us and affect the future of democracy and stability.
Yeah, here's one of the upsides. I will give you a silver lining to that. is that in
Okay.
an autocracy, you have to narrow the corporate pushback to you. And you have to, and what happens, what they did in China, for example, is that every new company in a certain phase had to be 51% owned by the Chinese government, for example. So again,
Yeah.
TikTok is malware, get it off your phone, but everything that's created over there, whether they make plastic goods or satellite circuit boards, doesn't matter. It's 51% owned by the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP owns it. And the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, is not an army. It's not the Chinese army. It's not the Chinese military. It's the CCP's army. It is literally the party's army, which is why they can use the army against their own people. That's very different from our structure. Trump is too stupid or incapable or too friendly with the business community to have put everybody under a balloon and gone, okay, we got to start allowing for monopolies so that once the monopoly is established, then it's just an easy grab to guarantee that we control that one thing. What he wants, he's doing the inverse. We have more of a danger of an, I guess, an oligarchical kleptocracy than we do right now. An actual, like a monarchical system based on Trump is king, which is what he thinks he's shooting for. He doesn't believe it's authoritarian. He believes it's the time of the Trump dynasty. That's what he thinks. And it ain't. And the odd part about it is that even Elon Musk doesn't want that to happen because he wants to guarantee himself a place after the Trump thing falls. He seems to be trying to corral as many long-term government contracts that he can sue to keep. Okay, so let's go to DOGE and then we'll go to Epstein and real quick in the tail end of this. The DOGE stuff, Doge.gov, I've gone through it multiple times. It is hot garbage. It's lie after lie after bloated bullshit lie. Anybody who looks at it, who wants it to be this transparent sign that they're going after government waste is just, even if you're a Trump fan, you go like, what is this? It doesn't even say what this is. What is this? Right? Why are, you've got this listed as a saving, but there's no information about whether the money was already spent. And in a lot of cases, to cancel the contract costs more than finishing the rest of the contract. And it just means you're paying for work that won't be done.
Yeah.
Now, I understand why they want that with the DEI shit, because they hate it. They consider that waste or abuse. I think they call it abuse. I think they would call that abuse. But either way, I don't see I don't see this working out for Musk and Trump when they do a big flag wave on July 4th of next year or even this year or this fall or whatever. Because somebody's Newsom's going to declare for president probably in December of this year. Because if Trump can do it, fuck it, right? And that's
I think Tim Walz basically already has, by the way.
Yes,
I think Tim Walz is already in. Yeah,
I agree. So the question becomes is at the end of DOGE, is there anything really to show for it?
I don't think so. Obviously, the savings that they're racking up is not amounting to a whole lot. This is, what this is? This is Elon Musk, the dilettante, thinking he knows more about things than he actually does. I mean, one of the things he's running up against is government jargon, which I don't say that pejoratively. It's an actual thing where the language of the federal government is not intended to be opaque, but it's you have to have kind of a translation key in order to understand federal government jargon. And so he's looking at this stuff thinking he knows because he believes his own, he's high in his own supply, believes his own press, that he's the smartest man in the world. And on top of that, being the wealthiest man in the world. So therefore he knows everything about everything. And what he doesn't know anything, to be perfectly honest. He certainly doesn't know a whole lot about how the federal government functions. So once again, a lot like Donald Trump, he's just randomly cutting. Once again, based on fiction that he reads on Twitter, because If there's anything we know about Elon Musk, he is entirely addicted to being on X 24/7. He's
Right.
addicted to the notoriety he has there, and he believes the trolls and sycophants who tell him exactly what I said a second ago, which is that, oh, you're so smart, Elon. This is great. Why don't you go after those guys next? And he's like, okay, yes, I'm going to go after those guys next. And so he's taking advice from assholes and people who are probably tweeting from troll farms in St. Petersburg. You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
the upshot of this is, yeah, there are a lot of people getting fired, a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump getting fired right now. And it is affecting the functioning of the government. But at the same time, it's, as far as actual cash savings, it's not going to amount to a whole lot. The only way they can show a savings off the deficit or off the national debt is to cook the books. And I'm kind of expecting that to happen at some point. But I think there are other third parties, sort of non-governmental entities that also track that sort of thing, that will kind of blow holes in whatever the bullshit numbers they come up with. But I'm telling you, this stock price that you're showing up on the NASDAQ here, the Tesla stock price, is one of my favorite streaming shows that there is right now.
Oh my God.
And
Truth Social.
The DJT stock, his Truth Central stock, is very, very entertaining. Tesla has lost 50% of its value since its high point on December 17th. It is remarkable.
Right.
5.89%. Oh, no, wait a minute. I think it's even more than that.
Yeah.
I'm mixing up some of my numbers, but
yeah. The big news of the stock market in the month of February was the 7% drop that the big ones got. They all got hit by a 7% drop, which is correction territory. It's very dangerous. And again, it has a lot to do with market sentiment and people parsing out like, okay, well, like your regular trader going, all right, will they be able to buy the goods and the stuff that they need to actually be able to get in on these things and, make the stuff that they make so that they can sell the stuff that they make to the people that buy the stuff that they make. And you don't even have to go there to get to this fucking guy told his main audience to fuck off. I mean, who buys electric cars in general? Like, the idiocy is stunning. On top of that, who trusts, like science and AI, and who supports NASA? Democrats. Who supports, like all of it. Like, if you had any CEO in a normal circumstance had a 7% drop in their stock price because of shit they said on Twitter, the board would have kicked them out a long time ago, because obviously, especially unless they invented the fucking thing and have the code to turn it on and off, which he did neither. He didn't invent Tesla. The company was even called Tesla before he stepped in. Like, it's silly. He's an investor. He's got a big cushion between FA and FO that you and I don't have. That's the only reason he's rich. And a lot, and he's riding the next bubble, which is it's like looking at the China bubble people, or the .com bubble. But this 6.5%, 6.6. I spoke too soon. It literally hit it as I was saying it. 6.6% drop today. To like $16 just on the side, like today, not in the month of February. To fucking day. Now, what I want to know is if anybody could tell me who the fuck he's going to make these cars for and who he's going to sell them to in America and Europe. And China's not the market it used to be. So where the fuck does this stock price go? I honestly...
Again, this goes back, this goes back to what I was saying about Elon Musk not knowing anything or anything. Because on one hand, he's trying to appeal to an audience that has been conditioned over the last 10, 20 years to hate electric vehicles, EVs. It's almost as ingrained as how much they hate liberals and avocado toast and all the tropes, right? I mean, Donald Trump has been screaming about how stupid EVs are for the last 10 years, and now Elon's expecting those people, the MAGA disciple, to buy EVs, and specifically a Tesla, and at the same time, he's losing the audience that, as you were saying, he's losing the audience that would actually go and buy a Tesla, which is the left, essentially, which is everyone else that isn't MAGA. And so he doesn't have any audience. He's already turned off the one audience because of Donald Trump. And now he's turning off the rest of us who don't want to buy a Tesla because Elon Musk is at least performatively a fascist in terms of his Sieg Heil salutes and
Yeah.
throwing in with
And
Donald Trump and
his fucking
yeah,
Technate bullshit that I was talking about, and I
yeah,
will keep talking
right.
about. I have Tara Dublin, who indeed does rock, waiting in the wings. So
Yes,
I've held you over a little bit, and I appreciate you hanging out, Bob Seska, because
sure.
I adore you, and I wore my Resident Alien shirt for you today because I feel
Yeah, I
like you
love
and I
that.
nerd out on a level
Yeah.
that seldom seen otherwise. And I have a couple of specialty. Well, I'm going to hold it up and then tell everybody bobseskashow.com and your schedule real quick, and I'm going to grab something real quick.
Okay, yes, bobseskashow.com. That's my Patreon page. You can subscribe for $5 a month, $10 a month, somewhere in there. You get all kinds of bonus content, big community. It's kind of a safe space for people over there. Also, we've got new shows every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a Patreon only show on Friday with me and Kimberly Johnson. And it's great. I'm talking to Rude Pundit on Wednesday. I've got actor John Billingsley to talk about the Hollywood Food Coalition next week. So
Beautiful.
yeah, we do, sort of a 3-person show on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's always a guest, an outside guest on Wednesdays, and that's our schedule. Shows drop anytime between 5 and 6 Eastern.
Perfect. This is what I was going to show you. So my kid
yeah.
got me this because he knows I
That's
love me
awesome.
some Captain America.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the
As you can see,
Kirby Captain America.
over
Yeah.
this shoulder here. There's
Yeah.
Captain America.
Yes.
Right
Yeah. So I knew you would appreciate this one. And by the way, it will come out of the box. I am not one of those assholes. I will use it.
Oh yeah.
If,
Same.
in my family, guitars are to be played and figurines are to be displayed as actual things, not in case so you could sell them at some future date, like you're looking for the bigger fool theory at Comic-Con. So Bob Seska, thank you so much for being with me. bobseskashow.com. Sign up for his Substack and also the Patreon. I think bobseskashow.com will take you to the Patreon.
That's it.
And I feel like everybody should enter the $5 tier minimum on all these little channels like mine and yours and others to just start tipping that boat up. If you watch the show and you can have the means and wherewithal, we're going to be kind of almost singularly alone in this fight as we go forward. So we're finally dragging the media back to where it needs to be, but it's going to take them a while, and they're going to waver a lot. We will not waver. So really appreciate you being with us today, brother.
Thanks so much, my friend. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. All right. Cheers. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, the great Bob Seska. And joining us right now, the lovely Tara Dublin, who indeed does rock, and she will come into. She's got Portland internet, so she will pixelate, and she'll show up like a nude photo a friend sends you in the '90s, where you're like, hey. So hi. Oh wait, why can't I hear you? I don't hear you. I don't hear your microphone. You hear us. We do not hear you though. Is your microphone on-age? Nope. We don't hear you. Check. Checking the audio now. Oh, wait, I heard a little noise. Is that something? Hello? Nope. Hold on one second. Yeah, here, reconnect for me, and then we'll see if we can make you join in there in a second. Give me 1 second. I'm not nuts, right? I was not hearing her, but it was not showing up in my little interview meter, as it were. By the way, hit the like, share the show. Super chat's always welcome. Bless you guys. Thank you. Great to have Bob Seska. I agree. It's we're very lucky to get him. And thank you, Joy. Tara does indeed rock. She rocks a lot better when I can actually hear her. Checkity one, can we hear her in the green room? We'll add her to the show right now. Doo-doo. Let's see if she comes in. Yeah, for some reason I don't hear you. Why would that be? Let's go here. Why would that be? Here. It says she's in the green room. Oh, wait, I know why. This is fun. Hold on. This is good stuff. Because there's like 2 screens of you in here, I bet. We'll go to this one and we'll go, let's see, add. So I'm going to pop her. Oh, she's huge. Do we hear her on this one? Nope. Still don't hear you for some reason. I don't know what that is. We'll figure it out in just one moment. Tara Dublin rocking. Let's see. Working on it. We're working on it, kids. Don't worry. Let's see. It says guest is in green room. You shouldn't be in the green room. You should be out and about. Back. There we go. It says guest is. Why is it? You're stuck in the green room. Hold on. I'm gonna hang up on you and bring you back. Hold on. I'm gonna fix it myself. Nabbit. 1 second, and she will call me back in just 1 second, and then we will make it happen, I think. How are you? Sorry, I'm coughing. I'm pushing other buttons, so I couldn't push my cough button. That's terrible of me. Rude. Call me back. There she is. She's calling. See, I don't hear the audio on her when she's doing that part. So maybe, hold on, chat room. Let's do this. And then we will go publish this. And we'll go back to live. No, go back to live mode. And then I think we'll bring Tara in like this. Hey, look at that. And a big Tara.
I'm humongous.
Yes, you are. Hold on. There you go. You're
I'm
doubling
everything.
up.
I'm all the things.
It's all right. Hold on. I'll put it
I'm your
in
background,
movie.
your
There we go.
foreground.
We got it. We're good. Okay, now we're working.
Hi.
Look at
Are
that.
we
Hold
here?
on.
Do I exist?
Yes, we
Am
are.
I real?
Yes, you're
Hey,
in.
top
You're
of
good.
the
You're good.
morning to
Hi.
y'all.
Oh yes.
Hi.
I can't.
Hi.
I can't wear green on the fucking show because I use a green screen. So later on, I will be half invisible because I'm going to wear a green shirt and it's going to make my chest, like just my floating head appear. But I feel like that's appropriate.
Well, then I won't be pinching you. That's fine. I'm not Irish.
Damn it.
So you get a pass.
I am.
So I just have the most
Irish
name in the world, and today I'm wearing my special shamrock that also has the Star of David inside of it. So
that's good.
It's Irish name, Jewish person. So hi, how are you? I haven't seen you in 2 weeks.
I know it's been crazy. I was on a ship with
you were on
rocking.
I heard with Kip Winger.
I know. Who is, by the way,
you got to sing with Kip Winger. That was a name.
I did.
Like, wow, that's in the way back vault of musical knowledge. Hadn't heard that one in a minute.
So there are two people that I need people to know are on, politically speaking, right on the goddamn money. And it's Kip Winger and Richard Marx are should be in your heavy playlist.
Oh, Richard is great.
Yes. And so both of them are, and he, Kip tried to put together, like, when he put out that video, he caught a lot of shit because he supported Harris, and it, by the way, it did not affect his audience or his ticket sales at all. That's the other thing people need to know is you could stand up for this stuff. And even if your fans don't agree with it or they get mad or people online appear to get mad, it's not real life. Real life, people show up and watch your show and you're fine. And I found this out as a comedian. It doesn't, like, if you're funny or you're a great musician or people love the music, they're going to show up anyways. And so just to let you know, he's a good dude across like all fronts. Really awesome. And I was a fan in high school. I told him literally the first time I ever saw one of his music videos, which was Hungry off the first record, which is called Sahara, even though people think it's a debut album that's self-titled. It says Winger across the bottom, top, but at the bottom it says Sahara really small, and they just blew it off.
I love music nerds. I love music nerds so much. Keep going.
My first response when I saw the video was literally, this is a quote, direct quote, "I don't know who this asshole is, but he lucked out in the guitar player department because Reb Beach is a beast." And then I fell in love with the music, and he's a good dude, and the rest is history. But there you go. And I also admitted on this ship that I have Tesla stock, and I've had Tesla stock for a long time. I have all of their albums in vinyl, cassette, and CD.
I get it. That's also deep cut Gen X. Be known.
Yeah.
It took me a moment, but you set it up just so perfectly.
I thought it was a good sweep.
Tesla will continue to accept. Great.
Right. That's right. So I will show you this. Whoops, hold on. I've got to move you in here so we can actually see you in this part of it. Hold on 1 second. That's silly me. I was so busy doing the other thing. There you are.
I know.
Hi.
This is a joy. This is part of the joy we can can get when we're wringing joy out of anything that we can possibly,
Yeah.
because that's what where we're at. Take some joy in this kind of Schadenfreude. It's
Right.
direct from South Africa. It's I love this because this is an incredibly effective way to get under somebody's skin. And
Mhm.
the Tesla people are already not loving the fact that we're calling their vehicles swastikars. They're mad
Yeah.
about that. They're definitely mad about the stock dropping. Hence the commercial at the White House the other day, which I don't know how many different acts that
Holy
violated.
shit. Right.
But it was like, I mean, there's Trump holding the sales pitch in his hand, and it was one step away from what do we have to do to get you into this beautiful Chrysler LeBaron? I mean, it was yeah, where was the bouncy house for the kids and the 3-card Monte table? That's literally all that was missing from that huckster. Where I'm honestly waiting for them to brand the front of the White House with Trump/Tesla at this point, or Trump Musk or whatever, because like we're one step away from that because he wants to do the same thing in Gaza. But
Right.
it's good. This is the resistance that matters though, because
Yep.
it's hitting them at the financial level because all they care about is money. So if that's, I'm not a person who encourages vandalism, because I know that here in Portland there was the Tesla showroom that got shot up. Unfortunately, nobody
No.
was hurt. That's
Yeah.
not the way you want to do it. You want to hit
Nope.
them as the way it will hurt them, which is stop buying their stuff and
Yeah.
return. If you own a Tesla, you have many choices to get an electric vehicle. So you could return that Tesla and they won't
Yeah.
be able to resell that vehicle for a great price because no one wants to buy them. So, and whoever's buying the stupid Space Pinto Hummer wannabe thing, it's so dickless. I saw one in Portland. It was all black and they had blacked out the windows. And I'm just like, how tiny are you? Like, how
Right.
fragile and scared do you have to be to drive around in this thing that looks like somebody took a Tonka truck from 1974 and just embiggened it and then painted it? Is there a G.I. Joe
Embiggened.
sitting shotgun with you? You know, I like to say that funny word. But I mean, it's just
I like it.
you have all your G.I. Joes and your Legos in the back, baby. I mean, it's so precious and it's so like it's just so easy to make fun of. That's how we're going to
Mhm.
wring the joy out of this. They're like handing us their own ridicule on a platter. Like Mike
Right.
Johnson on TV yesterday, what happened to his face? I'm not really, did you see him? It looked like he tried to Trump contour. So
You're
he had
right.
like a smear here and things here. And I think maybe he just took one of Trump's diapers and went, yes, daddy. And then, or kissed his ass or something and then went on TV because everything is ridiculous. So all the things that we can make fun of and mock them for being bad at, which is everything, do so. Like Trump putting out the thing, like, I won the golf tournament at my own golf club. And then somebody posted a video of him completely shanking into the trees.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
glorious. It's glorious
Yeah.
and share that because he's bad at everything. So, and why
Yeah.
is he babysitting Elon Musk's which 17th kid? I don't know. I've lost count. But the one who wiped his boogers on the Resolute desk. Apparently, Papa's babies.
Number 12.
Is it
Yeah.
number 12? Anyway, number
Yeah.
12. And Paul was babysitting him. He's like, want to go for a fun ride on Marine One? Wee! That's your tax dollars at work, MAGA. That's what you voted
Right.
for. Congrats. What's up? Like, this is insanity. So just keep
Right.
there's a by the way, there's a new season of Black Mirror dropping next month. And I'm just like, it's so meta to have a new season
We're
of
all
Black
in it.
Mirror coming when we're living in the worst possible episode of Black Mirror. It's like how to destroy the world in 2 months.
Right.
That's where we are. That's what the name of our episode is. It's insanity.
They wish.
Thanks, Chuck Schumer. Thanks, Chuck. Oh my God. I heard
Okay.
you mentioning all of that a little earlier. And so
Yeah.
we need to get it. We need to get into that business.
Okay.
'Cause
Yeah.
What the
Okay.
what the what?
I'll tell you exactly what the what. The budget that they could get passed if they crowbarred everybody, added a bunch of awful and put cuts in a bunch of awful. A CR doesn't do any of that shit. It was a smart move. It sucks. But again, this is a situation where we don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, and just locking it down affects all the people we're trying to help. So all the things we're talking about, when you shut down USAID and you shut down all these programs, you hurt people. That's what happens in a government shutdown. What the Republicans were trying to do is force us into the Democrats having to own the shutdown for them, so it would do the damage that they wanted done. And as again, there is no upside in this. This is the lesser of two evils, or the lesser of seven evils. And I'm for it. Sorry. I don't think they were wrong to do it.
Okay. I mean, I think obviously this is one of those no-win situations, because it was either give Republicans everything or give Americans nothing. And that's a tough choice. It's just our leadership just looks so weak and ineffectual right now, and everybody is mad. And I think I absolutely agree that we at least need someone to replace Schumer as Senate Minority Leader, where it's somebody who has has respect and gravitas, and is maybe not over 70, not to be too ageist, or at least someone who scares the shit out of Trump. That would be great. Not someone who Trump thinks he can bat around like a kitten with a ball of yarn. He declared that Chuck Schumer isn't Jewish anymore. He declared that Chuck Schumer is officially Palestinian, that Chuck Schumer was, and I think part of it was like, after that, like, Chuck Schumer actually took that and just kept trying to work with them. And that was frustrating to see. So I made a short list of some people that I think would be better Senate minority leaders for right now. I love my Senator Jeff Merkley has really risen to the top of outspoken Trump critics, and particularly around this issue. And he was hell no on the shutdown, and he's really emerged. Elizabeth Warren, even though she is, and I didn't know this until I looked it up, she's 75, but I thought she was only like 64 or 5. But anyway, she gets under Trump's skin like few others. She's at like Pelosi level, right?
Yeah.
So she understands how the Fed works. So she would be a great Senate minority leader going forward, because she understands how all of the distinctions of the Fed and the intricacies of the Treasury, especially now, she would be very useful. And Trump hates her because she's a very formidable opponent. Also, Chris Van Hollen has emerged as a great one. And then my former senator in Washington, Patty Murray. Patty Murray is a tough little cookie. And she was very outspoken after the vote. And she is actually one of the more elder members of the Senate. She's been there since 1993. So she understands how the Senate works, and how to also, when it's time to cross the aisle and when it's time to stand firm. And she's really another one, like, people don't really pay attention. And those are the ones that you really have to watch out for. And so while there may be somebody obvious who's out there waving and screaming like, oh, I don't know Bernie Sanders is still 83 years old. And he is not a unifier in the way that one of the others might be, because of where they've landed. And Elizabeth Warren is progressive enough in that she could reach the Bernie people while also reaching the centrists in the party. And so that's one thing. And we also still, and I'll keep pushing for it as I have been, we need a Democratic party secretary. We need someone who's out there every day saying, here's what Democrats did today. Here's what we're trying to push against. Here are the lies that you just heard in the press room. And for the longest time, I've been pushing it for it to be Jessica Tarlov from Fox News, because Trump has his Fox hours. But now that Pete Buttigieg seems to have an open schedule, he'd be amazing to be out there every day. He already has that level of respect from the country. It would be a better position for him if he wants to run in 2028. And it's a great way to gain the respect. He already has the respect of Republicans. He already has been on Fox News extensively. He's the only one who'll do that. And so I would love to see that. And I will keep putting that on my socials, and keep tagging the DNC, and keep tagging Democratic leadership, because it shouldn't be somebody's job from Congress to like work all day and then get up and before cameras and be like, okay, here's what we did. Someone needs to have, we need a dedicated person. And so I think if you get a unifying Senate minority leader, and we have a Democratic press secretary, And also, we have a special election coming up in a few weeks where there are 3 seats up that we can flip and get our majority back. It would be like, a razor thin one, but we can do it and nobody's talking about it. And especially Republicans aren't talking about it because maybe if they don't shine a light, Democrats won't fight. It's 2 seats in Florida and 1 in New York. And so if you're watching right now and you're in those 2 states, get the vote out. We have to flip those seats because that's a path forward, not just, getting some shit done. That's a path directly to a 3rd impeachment because we can't bring the articles of impeachment. We can't have an impeachment without a majority in the House. So we have to do that. And so nobody knows about these 3 seats. It's a woman named Gabe Valamont. There's Josh Weil. Those are the 2 seats in Florida. And then the guy in New York who is up for what was Elise Stefanik's seat.
Yep.
His name is Blake Gandabine or Gandabine. But all 3 of them are on Blue Sky. And I've shared their Blue Sky accounts on my Blue Sky account. I'm sharing them across all my socials because this is something nobody seems to know about. Nobody's talking about it and that's part of what the Republicans are doing, of the distraction show. Because I heard you and Handsome Bob Seska talking about this is why they're going to do this with Greenland, and this is why they're talking about Panama. And those are part of the distractions. Not that they're not intending to maybe do something, but that's a big distraction from all of the other stuff. And so everything that I just said is stuff that we need to jump on immediately. And why our voices need to be lifted up while, the mainstream media is not doing anything to help the Democrats get any messaging out. There was no mainstream coverage about the massive protests against the Trump administration, the massive protests that veterans staged last Friday. There's another massive protest coming up on April 5th, a national one in all 50 states. So those are the things that we have to be doing and continuing to
there's also
have these conversations and lift each other up more than ever. Because people are like, we need a progressive network that's talking to everybody and telling the truth. And I'm like, hi, we're right here. We have the Progressive Voices Network right now. And so, and they're like, no, a TV network. I'm like, no, this is as good as you're going to get. You don't want a TV network with Mr. Project 2025 controlling the FCC. We're not going to get that, but we have this.
The New York seat, Blake Glendebian.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Gendebian.
Gendebian. Is one of the upsides about that seat, besides it being a Elise Stefanik seat, and if a Democrat took it, it would be hilarious and very helpful, is that there are like 9 other Republicans running for it right now because they think it's Elise Stefanik. They're under the weird, because she sucked up to Trump so much later, they're under the impression that she was elected to be a Trumpy. She wasn't. That district was not necessarily one of the districts that they thought, was very red in that regard. They, she had an oddly, I wouldn't call her adversarial towards the first Trump period, but she was just kind of on the fence about a lot of things and was slow moving in it. And maybe because he's a rapey scumbag and that was enough to make her reticent. It certainly has gone out the window now, but the illusion that it made it up because she sucked up to him, that it's a hardline Republican district, has rang the dinner bell for all the other maggot guys that want to run and take the seat. So they're going to bite each other in the neck trying to get this seat, which allows the Democrat to basically run unopposed in the run up to it, which is great. So yeah. So and there are no independents running to soften. Yeah, and there's no independents running to soften the impact. So, and the date of that one, do I have it listed? Incoming inspector resigned. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's April Fool's Day.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So, but we also have 2 other seats that are empty because of death, because of Raul Grijalva, who passed away last week or a week before last. I'm sorry, week before last.
I did not know that.
In Arizona, in Texas, Sylvester Turner.
Texas, yes.
Yeah.
Who had just stepped in for Sheila Jackson Lee, who had passed away.
And Christian Menefree is running. Seat, both of those seats are Democrat held. They're going to be replaced by Democrats. We don't have to worry about them too much. But Manuel Vega is running against, running for that seat, and will, in the special election. There's no Republican running because they're in a why bother situation. They're obviously diverting funds to that New York seat because Trump cares about New York more than the rest of the country combined. And then Christian Menefree is going to more than likely fill the Texas 18 seat, which is great. So those three, though, Florida's first district, flipping Matt Gaetz's district would be an enormous blow to Republicans.
It would just be beautiful. It would be the most beautiful, just thing that could happen to that district, especially. They just gave safe harbor to Andrew and Tristan Tate in the state of Florida. I would be mad about that if more people would actually talk about it. Nancy Mace. Anyway, we can get back to her in a minute. Let's stay on. Stay on the subject of this first, because I took her on last week, and it was just a lovely exercise.
I'm of two minds. I always believe in giving people an off ramp, and I feel like the fact that Trump is a rapey McScumbag, it creates an opportunity for Nancy Mace, of all people, considering her big display on the House floor, to have an off ramp with him, whether she'll come to it or not. And the fact that she's, against animal testing or whatever, there's a bunch of things that lately she's done. I swear to God, if it wasn't for the and maybe this is why Republicans haven't wanted to fix the immigration issue for real for a long time, and they're worried that they caught the car and now it's over, that if they solve the border and Democrats are just like, we want a well-managed border, it's fine, and we just go back to that, and we have the kind of deportation situation that you had under Obama or Biden, it won't be the problem that Republicans made it into. That Mace and them will start hunting for new heads, and Trump is the only game in town because his relationship with Epstein, and obviously the Epstein files things. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's been eating up the right-wing media. They are all over. They are
I've seen it.
Watching them try to make excuses for why Kash Patel and why Pam Bondi aren't immediately releasing all of it, and blah blah blah, and they're so trying not to say because really? Trump was on the plane.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, it makes me want to put my entire fist in my mouth, because nobody ever reported on Ron DeSantis ordering a Florida judge to declassify a whole cache of the Epstein files. And that excerpt that I have shared repeatedly, that I recorded myself reading, because it's worse when you hear what Donald Trump did to the 12-year-old and the 13-year-old. And if you haven't seen it, I don't even know how many times I put it on all of the socials, and it's on my YouTube, and it's everywhere, because it's real. And so when they were making the big display with the redacted binders and the idiots like DC Drano were dancing around with them, I'm like, what are you doing? You got nothing in there. All you got is a bunch of black lined out stuff, and you're not doing anything. And yet there's like MAGA idiots like Kevin Sorbo tweeting, where are the Epstein files? It's like, fucko, ask Ron DeSantis. He's probably got them on a book and the hook in every bathroom in his house. It's crazy that not enough people talk about it. When I see someone asking where are they, I respond with, right here in my voice. Why don't you do anything about this, Pam Blondie? But no one. I'm so suppressed.
That's exactly why they're not.
The app is fighting for it. So, but it's like, how many? I have shared it with media people who are on Blue Sky, and nothing. It's crickets. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know why it's not a bigger story. We do
know. We absolutely know why. I would say.
But those of us who know that it to be true, we have people who have large followings, and it should be boosted and all of that, and it's not. I can only do so much. I need help getting it boosted. How many times would you like me to post it? I can do it again, but it'll be the same people still ignoring it. So it's really frustrating. And especially there are so many people, when I share it, they're like, I've never seen this. Why didn't I ever see it? I'm like, I tried. I've been trying. None of us on MSNBC anytime.
Right. There's 100,000 bazillion bajillion reasons why they're not showing it, but the primary one is that Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's wingman for a quarter century. That's why. Yeah, and everybody is like Doctor Strange loving themselves with their own hand, trying not to say.
I don't get it. Like the
I do.
liberal media should be like, look what we found. It's right here, and they didn't. And it's just
hashtag Epstein. So
they could have done it. Anyway. I don't get why anybody's afraid of Donald Trump. He blocked me on Twitter in August 2015. Never unblocked me. He's a coward. I don't get it. Sorry, not sorry.
Like I said, again, these folks are trying their hardest to try and explain all this stuff away, and they know and they get so close to it. Every time I see them, every time it comes up, like you see them maybe, and they get like, because Trump, and the other people, and you're like, dude, stop.
No,
every single one of them. There is there's
nothing. We've talked about this so many times on your show. Trump was campaigning in the repainted Lolita Express plane. Come on. I mean, there was probably DNA all over that thing. So come on. How do you look I get how you look the other way because you're in a cult. But when you share these facts, they just don't answer you because they don't have an answer. So when you ask the question of Nancy Mace, who's a rape survivor and has used her rape when it's conveniently, politically convenient for her, and she's like, well, as someone who survived sexual assault, I don't feel safe in a woman's bathroom with a man. I'm like, that's not a man in the bathroom with you, and you've already been in the bathroom with a trans woman, and her name is Caitlyn Jenner. So why is that okay?
Right.
So, and so sometimes I get so, maybe it's my stubborn Taurus nature, but if I get a little, I get a little like something in my craw, and I want to know the why of people, and you know that about me. So when the Andrew Tate thing happened, I immediately reached out to Nancy Mace. I'm like, why are you okay with the sex trafficking rapists getting safe harbor in Florida? Because of all of the things that you should not be okay with, this is a big one. This should be at the top of your list, because you tweet that Donald Trump will protect women. This is the direct opposite. This is Donald Trump putting 2 sex trafficking rapists by the pool with his granddaughter, right at Marla. Where are you going?
Okay, they're gonna check.
What's happening?
They're gonna check outside. Don't worry.
Are we okay?
We're good. Yeah, they'll ring the bell.
What's going on? Are you getting raided?
No, I added solar panels to the house, and they have to do one final check on the house, which is very nice to make sure everything. So because we're basically
thank you for being environmentally friendly.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
And they may ring the bell, and I'll have to run up and do them. In which case, I'll leave Tara to talk to you. And I know she's she gets a little tongue tied.
Monologue.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do a reading from The Sound of Settling. We'll read to the kids. Anyway.
Well, I think what we'll do is, and sorry. Okay, so I want to remind everybody, by the way, at Tara Dublin, we'll take you to on Substack. We'll take you to Tara Dublin's Substack, which is taradublin.substack.com, part of the Political Voices network. And we're working on this starting at the end of 100 days. Me and John and Frangela going out and doing some stand-up shows and starting to, this is like, all right, dude, you had your big run, your day 1, your day whatever. And all of a sudden, it's put up or shut up time, dummy. And we get, all bets are off. The kid gloves come off, and you've done everything you said you're going to do. You've signed all your silly things. Yes. Okay.
Is it happening now?
Yes, it's going to happen now. So I leave you in the capable hands of Tara Dublin.
I'll tell you the Nancy Mace story while
yes, you will.
Hal
Hold on
gone.
1 second.
Am I on?
I'll put you in.
You
will in 1, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, you do. Look at that. How do you like them apples?
I don't see it.
And
no,
hold on. I will publish you. There you go. And then I will scrub you in, and then I'll move you down, and then we go. And then, it'll be a little blurry for a second, but then it'll be you all to your lonesome. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
Trust me on this.
Great.
Yeah, so
all right.
It's you. Right. There you go.
Hi, guys. All right. Hey, awesome. First and foremost, thank you for being here. A little bit of housekeeping. This is my book, The Sound of Settling. It's a rock and roll love story. And for some reason, the sales have been down the last couple of months. I wonder why people aren't really in the mood. But anyway, it's a rock and roll love story. This is the perfect time for people to escape, go on tour with Lila and Grady. You can get the book at TaraDublinRocks.com. In a little bit of housekeeping, Tammy, I lost your email. Please email me back. And so, Francie, if you are watching, if you could go to Amazon and take down the review about the small print, because I have better versions of this book. I know I met you at Sexy Liberal when you were here in Portland. So I'm happy to send you an autographed copy of my book. Just message me your address. But I don't, the new copies of the book are fine. And so I don't want people to not buy the book because they think they won't be able to read it. And I appreciate every single person who checks out my book. You can also get it on the Kindle and you can order it from your local indie bookstore. Anyway, so here's the Nancy Mace story. If you didn't read it on the Political Voices Network Substack, which I hope you'll all sign up for and subscribe to, just like mine, I was mad that Nancy Mace didn't make a statement about Andrew and Tristan Tate, because she claims that Donald Trump will protect women, and he clearly does not. So first I tried Twitter, which of course that doesn't work. And then I tried calling her office. And there are two different young guys who answer the phone, and I've called often enough that I know the difference between their voices. And so the first time I called was Friday, February 28th, because that's when the story broke, I believe. And I asked the guy, I was like, well, Nancy Mace is a rape survivor and claims that Donald Trump will protect women. So why hasn't she said anything about Andrew and Tristan Tate? And he was like, she'll probably have a statement forthcoming. I was like, awesome, I'll look for it. And then it didn't happen. Hi, Hal. I'm telling the Nancy Mace story. And so I contacted Nancy Mace's office and they were like, I don't know, she'll have a statement. And then she didn't. And so on Tuesday, March 4th, I tried again and I called the office again. And then I got the guy with the deep voice who's meaner. And he was like, well. And I was like, great, never mind. You're not helpful. And so then I took it to the next level and I emailed Nancy Mace's comms director. Her name is Gabrielle. And she's another MAGA mean girl. And I understand how the bullies use language and try to blame the questioner instead of addressing the question. So I emailed her and I'm like, look, I have contacted your office repeatedly. It is my job to write about this. I'm not just calling to be, a thorn in your side. That's just an attitude.
Although that's a nice plus.
I just, as it is, it's I know that annoys them. So that's fun for me. But truthfully, it is my job. And, I'm always in the pursuit of the truth. And you claim these things, but you act in a different way, and that's not cool and whatever. So I emailed Gabrielle and I'm like, listen, here's what she's tweeting, but here's the reality. And she didn't get back to me on March 4th. And so sometimes no answer is your answer. And I'm like, okay, Nancy Mace is fine with rape. That's cool.
Yep.
And then, you go on and you get absorbed by the news cycle and then you forget. And then she tweets something else that's stupid. I'm like, oh yeah, I never got my answer. And so I called back last Tuesday, the 11th, and I got the deep voice guy again. And I was like, hey, it's Tara Dublin from Political Voices Network and blah, 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 blah. And I asked the question, he goes, who are you? I don't think I know you. And I'm like, dude, I talked to you this day, and this day. So he's doing that juvenile dipshit thing.
Sure.
And I'm like, look, this is my job. And he goes, Congresswoman Mace isn't required to answer questions from some random person. And I was like, well, I'm not some random person. I'm a person who writes about politics for a living. And I also co-host my own podcast, The Tara Show, now on Tuesdays as well as Thursdays on the Political Voices Network. We'll talk about that at the end. Anyway, but it's my job, kid. And he sounds like he's maybe 25. So and he's like, what was the question? And I go, and I asked the question verbatim over and over. Why does rape survivor Nancy Mace ignore the fact that Donald Trump, who is an adjudicated rapist and convicted felon, friend of Jeffrey Epstein, gave safe harbor to international sex trafficking rapists, Andrew and Tristan Tate? And he says, you're a very unpleasant person. And I'm like, dude, I don't care what you think of me. He's like, what was your name? I'm like, you know what my name is. And he's like, no, what is it? And so I go, Tara Dublin. T like Tom, A-R-A, Dublin, like the capital of Ireland. And then he's like, he gives me the runaround with the random and the blah, blah. I was like, all right, kid, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and write my article anyway. But now you've given me extra content. What's your name? You my name, I want to be able to attribute you accurately, because I care about truth in journalism. And he's like, oh, my name is Tara Dublin, T like Tom, ARA, Dublin like the capital of Ireland. And I was like, okay, dude, your name is Nancy Mace's little bitch. And I hung up on him for a change, which was refreshing. And then I immediately emailed Gabrielle. I was like, listen, I don't care if you don't like my questions, but I'm guessing if someone from Newsmax asked, you might respond to them. So anyway, I sent her another one and I didn't get an answer. So I screenshot my questions and I tweeted to Nancy Mace. And within 5 minutes, I got a response from Gabrielle. And it was one of those where she was attacking me for questioning rather than answering the question. And it was like, well, you're rude and you're this and you need to be nicer when you call. And I'm like, no, I fucking don't when I get as good as I get. But I said it nicer in my response. And then she comes back with, well, I don't have time to do a back and forth with you all day about this, that, and the other thing and da-da-da. And I was like, but okay, so you have time to do this, but you don't have time to get me a statement. Can you just tell me, does Nancy Mace love rapists or what? Like, I'll just say she does because you're not telling me she doesn't. How about that? And she wrote back, I'm glad you had a chance to vent today. And that was it. And I wrote back and I go, again, you had time to do that in pursuit of getting the last word, but you can't give me a statement about Andrew and Tristan Tate. And then she didn't respond to that. And so I wrote a whole thing for Political Voices Network. You can read it right now. Tara versus the MAGA Mean Girls, where I put all of that in there. And it's a valid question. Do not say you're the pro-life party. Do not say you're protecting women and then say nothing. Even Ron DeSantis was like, I don't want these people in my state. But they're still there. They're still there, Ron. Get rid of them. Don't you have any kind of power?
Yeah. So
so that's that. Kids.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I wanted to show this real quick if I could. There it is. Here's Tara Dublin's Substack right there. So you know what it looks like in the lovelies. There you go.
I don't see
Tara Dublin is an untapped writing gold mine. There you go. Oh, sorry. I've got to.
I am.
I have to share it.
I am an untapped writing gold mine, and I do need a book deal already. Jesus Christ! And there. It is. That's me. That's me
there you go.
in the corner. I mean, I mostly write about politics on there, but I absolutely do promote my book, and I write about things other than politics occasionally, mostly on the weekends. So, but yeah, please do sign up, and you can sign up. You can sign up for free. But if you sign up for even the lowest paid subscription, which is $10 a month, then you can leave comments. MAGA kids in the chat. We can have a conversation just like we can have a conversation here. We can have a conversation on the Tara Show. I welcome that. And eventually on the Tara Show, we're going to have guests. And I'm going to do my best to maybe invite some Republicans. Not like Gavin Newsom is doing. What is that?
Right.
But
I'll tell you what that is.
Elected. Maybe
Hold
someone
on.
at a lower level.
I know Newsom's catching a lot of shit right now.
I know I
and
wouldn't
again,
get Nancy Mace.
Right. I got,
it's it works.
Gavin Newsom and I marched together for marriage equality from Harvey Milk Square to the Supreme Court building in San Francisco when he was just mayor of that place. Back when Kimberly Guilfoyle was still in the equation.
Had a face.
Before he.
When she had her original face.
When she looked like a human.
She was so pretty. She was really
so
pretty.
I don't know. That's another conversation for another time. But that said, one of the big conversations we heard right after from a bunch of people, and they're not wrong, was we need a Joe Rogan to the left. And we need somebody to go on all these podcasts and all these shows. The way Pete Buttigieg goes on Fox News, we need to have whoever's running for president next time has got to be unafraid to go into the lion's den, as it were, and go on all these right-wing podcasts and talk and have them on theirs if they're not in office or whatever. And that's what, Newsom started his own. And again, the Republicans are such a distinct problem that I'm not going to get bogged down by any Democratic tactics, even if I disagree with them in the interim, because it doesn't even chart with how awful the Republicans are being. And in this particular case, Newsom took the note from the Democratic media, the voters themselves, the vast majority of people, the response that still floats around that had Harris only gone on Joe Rogan, which was not true, and they subverted her ability to go on there, and Rogan intentionally made it more difficult than it had to be. Wouldn't go to her, for example. She had to come to him, which is just a bunch of fucking misogynistic bullshit.
Exactly.
Don't get me started.
He wouldn't leave his
but
safe space.
yes, there's a lot of reasons to call bullshit on it, but it doesn't matter ultimately because she wasn't on there and people have this myth in their head. So how do you attack the myth? You go straight up and you fucking knock over the facade. You flick the fucking cardboard stand-up and you go, that's not really Superman. That was a cardboard stand-up. And that's what Newsom largely is doing. And I feel like, you know, none of us ever have to sign off on 100% of what anybody is saying, and even the idea of even bringing that up as a talking point annoys me, because we don't. I think on our side, we don't really look for leaders the way people on the right do. They look for a messianic figure. That's why they thought Obama was a messianic figure for the rest of us, when really he's just like here's a capable, intelligent, caring human being who has a great plan, and he could. The fact that he could be the first black president is a plus, not a negative to us. And he's got real qualities that we appreciate in somebody who will govern, right? Which is different than this kind of war jingoistic leadership bullshit that the Republicans fall for every time. And I don't think they can grasp that. I think they also project onto our leaders their own messianic complex with Trump, that we think the same way. And none of us do. We're like, no, they're people, and if they fuck up like Menendez, they can go. If Clinton shows up on the fucking flight logs, and we find out he went to Little St. James Island after all or whatever, fuck him. Okay, my values don't go down the toilet because somebody pretended to believe them.
We always hold our own accountable. I mean, John Edwards is the foremost example of my personal political life, and like one of the biggest disappointments to me. Michael Avenatti was another disappointment. And
sure.
As soon as you find out somebody sucks, it's disappointing, and disappointment's hard to get over. But I mean, eventually you go, okay, well, that sucked. And we learned from that. It's like, like bad dating. That guy hit me, so I'm not going to go out with another guy that hits me. Like you're supposed to learn from the previous one and make the next one, at least work for you in some way. So I think, but when we're talking about Gavin Newsom, who's obviously someone who could be poised to run in 2028, and I've always liked him. He was at the DNC, but they didn't have him speak, which I thought was interesting. Here's an opportunity for him to have those conversations, but I don't think you have to have them with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon. I think you should be having them with people who are in Congress and actually have voting power.
They're not going to do it though. And I think the only ones with podcasts, are like Ted Cruz. And I don't doubt he'll be on Ted Cruz's at some point if he hasn't already. But the point is to go to these Charlie Kirk people and go, I'm not afraid of you, and I'll listen to what you're saying right to your face. And when you say your stupid shit, I've got a response. And that has to be part of it. It doesn't. There's a weird part about like, we shouldn't be platforming these people. And I have a kind of like Nazis marching in Skokie attitude towards some of them, that when they're in your presence, you turn your back. But when effectively they're accusing everyone of being afraid to take the hard questions and all this kind of stuff, that's when you show up and go, no, I'm not. And,
no, I'm not. And that's not it at all.
Right. And ultimately, what if, let's say, the Charlie Kirks of the world are floating on this idea that Republicans are big and bold and face the hard truths of life and blah, 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 whatever bullshit they've been selling themselves about Trump, right? And Democrats won't do it. Weak-kneed, woke, left, limp noodle, whatever you want to call it. When you burst that bubble and their people see it, it's way more valuable than even, when you and I are talking on my channel. And that's why these guys don't invite me on their shows. It's not for lack of trying. I would do any of these shows that Newsom's doing fearlessly. Mm-hmm. I think Adam Mockler's been doing a great job. I think Luke Beasley's been doing a great job, confronting people directly. And I think there's a real value to that. And I think Newsom's just catching a lot of heat because he's the highest profile version of it. And again, This may be a strategy that he decides, okay, that didn't work or that wasn't necessary or was a waste of fucking time, but not for a lack of trying. And I feel like at this point, if he just starts stacking bricks, like I wasn't afraid to go on your stupid fucking show. I went, you can go watch it. I don't have to come back.
Right.
You know, then he can,
Right.
once we get around to people running for president, it's smart of him. It is smart of him because he's going to have to appeal to the entire electorate.
Right.
He's
He
going
can
to
go
have to
back
get,
and say, here's me talking to Steve Bannon in
Right.
2025. And this is what Steve Bannon told me in 2025.
when Steve Bannon
that I mean,
was saying worse
I get
things
your
about
point.
Elon Musk
I get your point,
than,
but then
yeah, than most like elected Democrats were, ironically enough.
but don't say to Steve Bannon that you found common ground. You shouldn't have common ground with Steve Bannon. I mean, there's just that there has to be a line where, because what it does, it makes it look like he's speaking for all Democrats when he says, I'm glad we found common ground. Democrats
Well,
should
no,
not
okay.
be seeking common ground with people who are trying
Well,
to
here, no,
sell our
here's the
country
thing.
to Putin.
This is,
So
and this is a language thing. I think that's
line when we're talking
Right.
about this.
I think it's also a languaging thing because the common ground is, I believe there are no partisan issues, only partisan solutions. And so when you talk about common ground, what you mean is, here's something we both think is a problem. What we traditionally call a bipartisan issue. There are partisan solutions, but in this particular case, there's really only one solution to it, and it's a bipartisan solution. We got to work together for this thing to happen. All issues are nonpartisan. They either exist or they don't. And your belief about whether they exist or not can be a partisan thing sometimes, right? But the solutions themselves, that's where partisan breakout happens. You either believe that we can solve it with tax cuts or we can solve it with support or, those kind of things. That's why you're solving one particular problem. But the problem itself is not partisan.
Solve problems.
So the common ground is that we both agree there's a problem. The solution is where we differ. And that's where it's got to be fought out. And one of the ways you bring people to like down to your level, and so that we're speaking on even ground, is say, this is, we've got common ground here on an issue. We both see this as a problem. How we're going to solve it, we disagree on. That's what we have to hash out. That's what democracy is. My hackles don't flare up when he says shit like that because Gavin Newsom was, I don't think he was born. I think he was created out of a political, like McDonald's shake machine. Just goes like that, It's like that old.
Because his hair is perfect and his face is perfect
and his hand
right
gestures
things
are perfect, and he does all the right gestures. And this guy, it's amazing. It's like
Captain
he won all the.
Yes,
That's right.
Ding.
And I'm okay. I'm okay with him, pushing the boundaries of this because that's what it's going to require to put MAGA in the rearview mirror for good next time around. And the strategy that didn't work last time isn't going to work next time, even as fucked up as Trump is going to be. And I think there is a chance for transformational change if you go into the lion's den and go, I'm not ashamed to back up what I believe right here. Here's why I believe a national health care with a public option should be available at the baseline. You can argue about whether, the NHS or some level system would work in the United States or whether we do it on a state level and it's supported by the federal government. There's a myriad of ways to get there, but every person deserves to be able to go, if they're in an emergency, go to a hospital and not be turned away or I'm not going to the hospital because I will lose my house. That's fucking ridiculous. We should be able to handle that. And if Canada becomes the 51st, 2nd, and 3rd state, they're all still going to want national health care because that's one of the things they did like. So that's just dipshittery.
So dumb.
Yeah. So I don't have that problem
Canada
with it.
Alone.
Yeah.
What the hell? So dumb.
It's reality TV bullshit.
The thing that frustrates me is the dumb. I know, but I'm frustrated because I want people to care about being smart again. I want people to care that our politicians are supposed to be smart. They're reading bills that are 11 bazillion pages, and it shouldn't be dumb, sheepy cult people. It should matter that people are intelligent and have studied and have experience, and instead it doesn't. And I'm frustrated by that. We're watching our daily norms and all of these government agencies being decimated, and no one's really giving a reason for it other than they can do it. They put the wrestling woman in charge of the Department of Education, and then she fires half of the people. That's not what should happen in America. Like,
I
shit like
agree,
that is
but I
what I'm
also
freaking out about now.
sure.
It's like,
But again,
where does it stop, and how do you put the brakes
it
on?
stops at the states. It stops at the states. It means blue states are going to have to remedy these things on their own for the time being until the red states realize all their funding has been cut, because that's where all the money from the Department of Education goes. It goes to poor red states, and it has for a long time. And they've been able to use it as funny money and as a relative slush fund for themselves. And they're the ones dragging the numbers down. And again, even Musk knows this. He brought this up when they were talking about when Trump goes, we're 40th in the world. Well, if you get rid of the 5 biggest red states, we're 12th. If you get rid of all the red states, we're 3rd. And we're up against 2 other countries that are smaller than California as far as population. So it's easier to have good numbers when you can walk across your entire country in a day. So again, I don't necessarily have I'm not so much panicking about those things, because I think that what's going to have to happen is on a state level, you're going to start seeing this pushback. And it's why the CR got pushed, by the way. It's why the CR went through. It's because Republicans, all of them, secretly fucking need this. Whether they want it or not, they can't be seen wanting it, but they need it because their state will fall apart. All the red states are kept afloat by the blue states, period, end of fucking story. And they're going to have to come to terms with that.
I wish more people understood that on the other side.
Well, they are. They are slowly coming to that realization.
Well,
the other thing I would say is that
slowly,
if you want to see what programs Trump wants to dismantle, it's the ones he puts a woman in charge of. Donald, that's how he's got one black office, which is HUD. And if he wants something destroyed, he puts a woman in charge of it. Period. That's his strategy.
Interesting.
That's
weird.
You could argue that he has a chip on his shoulder about the DNI, and there's a bunch of right-wingers don't want it to exist anymore. It's a 9/11 relic that they want to get rid of, so they put Tulsi in charge of it. So shit can hit the fan, blame her, kick her to the curb, and there'll be a failure.
He does love to scapegoat women. That's what happens when you grow up with mommy issues on one shoulder and daddy issues on the other shoulder. Nobody loved him ever, and wah.
And none of these women get to say, I headed up a department and then become part of the leadership going forward. The way Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, set her up to be a presidential candidate, they can guarantee that Republican women have a glass ceiling. That's the point. It's a feature, not a bug. Of course. It's
Republicans are always the problem. I mean, you just look back at history. How many... It's so evident, and it's so frustrating because Republican presidents tank the economy and Democratic presidents have to come in and clean it up. It happens. And
next time's going to be no different. Next time's going to be no different. It's just going to happen sooner.
It's just, and when will you all learn? Finally, like, why the records speak for themselves. They are there. They are real. And to keep saying that Joe Biden's economy was a disaster is just a lie. There's no truth to it. Joe Biden's economy was the most successful in the last 6 decades and lifted up all other global economies with it. And you can say it until you're blue in the face, because the people who need to hear it aren't listening to us say it. So they're going to keep listening to the liars. And that's why our progressive, more, American, more patriotic message needs to be heard, because Republicans don't have the trademark on the American flag or patriotism. They don't own the colors red, white, and blue, and they don't own the Constitution, and they don't own, it's not just theirs. And that's something that we really focused on when we were at the DNC, is getting that sense of patriotism back within the Democratic Party and that sense of pride in the country. And we felt it in that room, and all of that good stuff that we feel just makes them hate us more because they're jealous and they have no joy. They don't love each other. They
don't let them have the word freedom. Don't let them have the word patriot. Don't let them, seize everything America or the fucking flag. Nope. And we have a responsibility to make sure that they don't. So, that's, in another conversation for another time, because I'm running out of time with you. But I want to remind everybody, Tara Dublin rocks Indeed. TaraDublinRocks.com to get her book, The Sound Settling, and of course, Tara Dublin at Substack.com, and part of the Political Voices Network. Hopefully, we're going to be able to drag you out on the road with us.
Yes. Yes. I'm a yes.
Yeah.
You just tell me
Yeah.
when and where, and I'll get I'll get a cat sitter.
I've got a cat sitter. We got to have a call with Ron this week to start setting up and make sure we're setting these dates, and getting so it starts rolling and keeps rolling. In the meantime, thank you for being on, and I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you
here with you. Hal.
I know, it's great. I'm glad to be back. It's nice.
So great. All right. Well, then we'll be conspiring soon. Everybody, please join me tomorrow, right around this time, for the Tara Show with my friend Tara Devlin, where we'll be tackling the truth like we do. We've had a really lively bunch of shows already, and we're going to twice a week now. We'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and if we get lucky, we'll maybe on a third day. We'll see. But I appreciate you. I love you, Hal, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Everybody take care of yourself and do something good for yourself, and don't drink the green beer. Bye.
That's right. All right, bye. There we go. Oh, thank you, Joy. That's so lovely. Appreciate the super chats, you guys. I'm going to dip out early because, I went long, but I'm gonna rest my voice because it needs it. I have to sing tomorrow night. God help me. Wish me luck. Never stops, does it? But it shouldn't. It can't. You know why? Can't stop, won't stop. In the meantime, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. And I will be on this afternoon for our regular show. And by God, we might even have the clips will work and everything. Wow. I mean, come on. It's possible. It could happen. It could happen. Thank you guys so much. See you in a bit.
Groovy. I was thinking of the immortal words of Socrates, who said, I drank wine.